Welcome to Lifespan, the weekly podcast that digs up the dirt on the most outrageous, chaotic, and downright WTF lives ever lived.
Uh-huh.
Forget what you learned in school. This is history's unhinged side.
Definitely.
Today, we're embarking on a truly bizarre journey into the life of a man who was, well, so much more than just a magician.
Oh, absolutely.
We're diving deep into the world of Harry Houdini, a cultural phenomenon who absolutely dominated the golden age of magic, late 19th, early 20th centuries.
Indeed. Houdini's story isn't just about, rabbits out of hats. It's a fascinating exploration of ambition, self-promotion, and just this relentless pursuit of the seemingly impossible.
Totally.
Our mission today, as we sift through these incredible testimonies, is really to uncover the most unbelievable, entertaining, and meticulously detailed aspects of his truly wild, crazy life.
Absolutely. And right from the start, the testimonies paint this picture of, well, almost the classic American dream, you know? Born Eric Weiss in Budapest, Hungary, his family's integration to the United States. It sets the stage for that immigrant who made good kind of narrative.
That really does.
And even as a young kid, this intense fascination with magic and performance was totally evident. I mean, can you imagine? At just 9 years old, he was on the trapeze, calling himself Eric, the Prince of the Air.
Wow. What's fascinating there is that even at that tender age, the seeds of the Houdini persona were already being sown.
Right.
The bold self-billing, the embrace of a stage name, it all points to this innate understanding of theatricality and the power of image.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what drove that level of self-belief so early on.
Exactly.
And that stage name, Harry Houdini, was of course inspired by the famous French magician Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin. He clearly looked up to him early on.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Later in life, Houdini actually became a pretty harsh critic of Robert Houdin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even writing a book called The Unmasking of Robert Houdin, where he accused him of basically being a fraud. Talk about a complicated relationship with your idol.
This later criticism really speaks to Houdini's evolving sense of integrity within the magic community, or, well, at least his publicly projected image of it.
Good point.
It suggests a desire to differentiate himself from what he perceived as deceptive practices, even those of his initial inspiration. Maybe he saw hypocrisy he wanted to distance himself from as his own fame grew.
And it wasn't all stage magic in his early years. He actually apprenticed as a locksmith.
Oh, interesting.
You have to wonder if that, intimate knowledge of locks and mechanisms played a role in his later escape artistry. It seems almost too perfect, doesn't it?
It's certainly a compelling connection to make.
Yeah.
That hands-on understanding of how locks work undoubtedly gave him a unique perspective.
Yeah.
And perhaps even some practical skills that he could later, adapt and exploit in his performances.
Right.
Do the testimonies offer any specific instances where that knowledge demonstrably aided one of his escapes? Or is it more of a kind of plausible connection we can draw?
They don't go into specifics, but I mean, it's hard to imagine it didn't give him an edge.
Yeah.
Even in those early, less famous days, there was this undeniable showmanship, this desire for spectacle. A 9-year-old calling himself the Prince of the Air. That isn't exactly subtle.
Not at all.
It really foreshadowed the grand scale of his later escapes, didn't it?
Precisely. While his initial forays into traditional magic weren't wildly successful, they were crucial in revealing where his true strengths lay.
Right.
He wasn't just about making things disappear. His genius was in the seemingly impossible act of reappearing, often against the most daunting odds. That's a far more captivating story, especially for a bizarre journey like ours.
You got it. And that pivotal moment came with his meeting with theater manager Martin Beck.
Yes. Vic.
That encounter led to this strategic shift towards focusing on escape acts, and specifically those mesmerizing handcuff escapes. That's what really launched him.
That shift was absolutely key. It allowed him to tap into a primal human fascination, the desire to witness someone overcome confinement.
Totally.
And what's truly insightful here is how Houdini tapped into the anxieties of the era. The feeling of being constrained by societal norms, economic hardship, or even the dawning of a more industrialized age. His escapes offered a symbolic release, a kind of vicarious thrill of breaking free. And he quickly capitalized on this, earning himself the very fitting moniker, King of Handcuffs.
And he wasn't content with just stage performances. He orchestrated these incredibly audacious publicity stunts, famously escaping from local jails.
Yeah, those were brilliant.
And the detail that always gets me is that he often insisted on being completely stripped naked beforehand, just to prove he wasn't hiding any tools.
Wow.
It really makes you wonder about his level of commitment, doesn't it?
Well,
Stripping naked to prove a point. What does that tell us about his persona?
well, that level of commitment to proving the authenticity of his escapes was a brilliant, albeit extreme form of marketing.
Yeah, I guess so.
It heightened the drama and left no room for doubt in the minds of the public. These weren't just tricks. They were genuine tests of his ability. It also speaks to a remarkable level of confidence and a shrewd understanding of how to generate buzz in the pre-internet age.
And those early escapes were dramatic stuff, jumping into rivers while handcuffed, for example. It just sounds insane.
Those early river escapes were certainly attention-grabbing and established a pattern of putting himself in genuinely perilous situations. It wasn't just about escaping the cuffs.
Right.
It was about escaping the elements, the danger of drowning, the sheer audacity of it all. It set a precedent for the increasingly dangerous and, well, outlandish nature of his stunts.
Then there's the legendary mirror cuff escape. London Hippodrome, 1904.
Oh, the mirror cuffs.
Yes. These weren't just any handcuffs. They were custom-made over 5 years with these incredibly intricate Brahma locks that were supposedly unpickable.
Supposedly, yeah.
The fact that he managed to escape after an hour of struggle, that's just mind-blowing.
The mirror cuff became a symbol of his seemingly limitless ability. These weren't your average padlocks. Brahma locks were renowned for their intricate mechanisms, considered virtually unpickable by many back then.
Right.
Their inclusion in the mirror cuff challenge dramatically raised the stakes. His eventual triumph solidified his international reputation and cemented his image as the ultimate escape artist.
And it wasn't just in England. He took on European police forces, like in Berlin in 1900. Imagine this.
Yeah.
Stripped naked in front of 300 officers.
300.
And still escaping in just 6 minutes. The sheer embarrassment for the Berlin police must have been immense.
Oh, absolutely. That Berlin incident really underscores his mastery. To escape under such scrutiny, completely devoid of any apparent aids, speaks volumes about his skill, his knowledge of confinement, and maybe even his psychological manipulation of those watching him. It wasn't just about physical dexterity. It was also about outsmarting his captors.
You're so right. His early success wasn't just about the escapes themselves. It was about his absolute mastery of self-promotion. He was a natural at generating media attention with these public stunts.
He really was.
He understood how to turn each escape into a major event. It makes you wonder, in a time before social media, what can we learn from his techniques about building a personal brand, even today?
Well, his innate understanding of publicity was truly ahead of its time. He recognized the power of a good story and consistently delivered them.
Yeah.
The fact that law enforcement often participated so willingly in these elaborate setups really highlights the novelty and the sheer public fascination he commanded. It was almost a form of public theater where everyone played a role, and Houdini was a master at directing that narrative.
And as if escaping from handcuffs and jails wasn't enough, his challenges just got increasingly bizarre and, frankly, dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Take the September 1911 escape from the belly of a 1,500-pound sea monster in Boston Harbor.
It's sea monster.
The testimonies describe it as either a whale or a leatherback turtle. Either way, can you imagine the stench, the cramped space, the near suffocation from embalming chemicals? That's not your average Tuesday.
No kidding. That sea monster escape is a perfect example of Houdini's willingness to embrace the truly outlandish. It transformed a morbid event, the discovery of a massive dead creature, into a sensational spectacle.
Right.
It further cemented his reputation for tackling any challenge, no matter how grotesque or improbable. It really speaks to his understanding of what would capture the public's imagination.
And the bizarre dares kept coming, escaping a giant envelope for the Hogan Envelope Company.
An envelope.
Breaking free from a blackjack gum packing case for American Chicle Company. These sound almost comical, but they all added to the legend.
These seemingly trivial challenges were actually quite strategic, I think.
How?
They demonstrated his versatility and his willingness to engage with the public and with businesses in creative ways. It kept him in the news and reinforced the idea that nothing could hold him. Plus, these everyday objects made his feat seem even more impossible. I mean, if he could escape a gum wrapper, what couldn't he do?
Good point. But some of these stunts were genuinely terrifying. His first attempt at the buried alive stunt.
Find that one.
Entombed 6 feet underground without a casket. He panicked, apparently, and he barely clawed his way out, collapsing unconscious. You'd think that would be enough to make anyone say, nope, not doing that again.
Right. That first buried alive attempt is a stark reminder of the real dangers Houdini faced. It wasn't all illusion. These were often life-threatening situations.
Clearly.
That incident really underscores the razor's edge he was constantly walking. It wasn't just about the spectacle. There was genuine danger involved. And yet, the fact that he revisited that stunt, not once but twice, in even more terrifying variations, submerged in a coffin underwater and buried in a sand-filled tank while straitjacketed in a casket, speaks to an almost obsessive need to conquer his fears and push his limits.
Wow. And who could forget the signature milk can escape?
Ah, the milk can. Classic.
Handcuffed and sealed in an oversized milk can filled with water, the audience holding their breath along with him. And then he'd escalate it by locking the can inside a chain chest. The suspense must have been unbearable.
The milk can escape became synonymous with Houdini. It was a masterful blend of perceived danger, audience participation with the breath-holding, and the seemingly impossible release. The added layer of the chain chest only amplified the drama and the sense of confinement he had to overcome. It became a signature piece, instantly recognizable.
And his underwater feats were just as daring, like the underwater box escape. Just the thought of being locked in a crate underwater is enough to give me anxiety.
Oh, me too. These underwater escapes were particularly grueling, testing both his physical endurance and his mental fortitude. The disorienting environment and the ever-present threat of drowning added a significant layer of real danger that the audience could sense.
Yeah, you bet.
It wasn't just about escaping the box. It was about surviving the ordeal.
And there was that harrowing incident in Leeds, England, where he nearly drowned trying to escape his milk can.
Oh, right.
Which in this case was filled with ale from Telly's Brewing Company.
Ale. That's right. Talk about adding insult to near-fatal injury.
Seriously.
That ale-filled milk can incident underscores the very real risks involved in his performances. It wasn't always a perfectly controlled illusion. Sometimes things went wrong, and his life was genuinely in danger.
Yeah.
His continuous pursuit of these increasingly perilous challenges really highlights a performer constantly striving to outdo himself and defy expectations, sometimes to a terrifying degree.
Now, after the death of his mother in 1913, the testimonies reveal a significant shift in Houdini's life.
A huge shift.
Yeah. This deeply personal loss, the death of his mother in 1913, it led him down a very different path into the world of spiritualism, which was, a really popular movement back then.
Yes. Spiritualism had gained considerable traction in the early 20th century, offering solace and the promise of communication with loved ones who had passed. Seeking comfort and perhaps a connection beyond the veil.
But that initial curiosity quickly turned into, a full-blown crusade against fraudulent spiritualist mediums.
It really did.
It became a huge part of his later career. But it's interesting to note that his skepticism actually predated his mother's death.
That's a crucial point. His skepticism wasn't solely a reaction to personal grief. He had already begun to question the validity of spiritualist claims. His mother's death may have intensified his resolve, fueling his passion to expose what he saw as exploitation. But the underlying skepticism was already there, perhaps stemming from his own understanding of illusion and deception.
And this crusade led to some pretty significant clashes, most notably with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Ah, Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
The creator of Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly. And a staunch believer in spiritualism. They were actually friends at first.
Their fractured friendship is a fascinating case study in irreconcilable beliefs.
Yeah.
Here you had two prominent figures. One, a master of illusion grounded in the physical world.
Right.
And the other, a master of deductive reasoning who embraced the metaphysical. The incident with Lady Doyle's seance, where she claimed to channel Houdini's mother and was exposed as fraudulent.
Oh, wow.
That really drove a wedge between them, highlighting the fundamental differences in their worldviews.
Oh, that must have been incredibly awkward. Imagine your friend's wife pretending to be your dead mother and you knowing it's a sham.
Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it.
It makes you wonder how their friendship even lasted as long as it did with such opposing views.
It was more than awkward. It was a fundamental betrayal of trust for Houdini. It highlighted the very deception he was fighting against. It likely felt deeply personal, a violation of his grief and his understanding of the world.
Yeah, I can see that. And he didn't stop with Doyle. He got involved with the Scientific American Committee, actively working to expose mediums like Marjorie Mina Crandon.
His involvement with the Scientific American Committee lent a significant air of legitimacy to his debunking efforts. He wasn't just a magician claiming foul play. He was actively participating in scientific investigations to expose fraudulent practices.
Bringing his expertise to it.
Exactly, bringing his knowledge of trickery to the realm of scientific inquiry.
He even took his demonstrations public, revealing the tricks these so-called spiritualists were using. Talk about pulling back the curtain.
These public demonstrations were incredibly effective in educating the public and demystifying the techniques used by fraudulent mediums. He was essentially showing people how they were being deceived, empowering them with knowledge to discern real magic from what he saw as harmful charlatanism.
And it wasn't just entertainment for him. He even testified before Senate and House subcommittees in support of legislation against fraudulent fortune-telling. He was serious about this.
Absolutely. His crusade against spiritualism was driven by a strong ethical conviction. He genuinely believed that these mediums were preying on the vulnerable and exploiting their grief. His efforts to push for legal action demonstrate the depth of his commitment to this cause. It wasn't just a hobby, it was a mission.
It's amazing to think that beyond all the magic and escapes, he also had this whole other life. For example, he developed this real passion for aviation, buying his own biplane in 1909.
Yeah, the aviation thing. His foray into aviation reveals a restless and ambitious spirit that wasn't confined to the stage. He was fascinated by new technologies and eager to push boundaries in different fields.
A real pioneer spirit.
It shows a man constantly seeking new challenges beyond the realm of magic.
And in 1910, he claimed to have made the first controlled engine-powered flight in Australia, although the testimony suggests that claim is actually disputed.
The Australian flight claim is indeed a subject of historical debate. While he certainly owned and flew a biplane there, whether his flight was truly the first controlled, engine-powered flight in the country remains contested. It highlights his tendency for self-promotion even beyond his magic career. Perhaps a desire to etch his name into the history books in multiple fields.
Always the showman. And then there's the really intriguing possibility of his involvement in espionage for the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS.
OSS, right, the precursor to the CIA.
Which was the precursor to the CIA. That's the kind of detail that makes this bizarre journey so captivating.
The potential connection to espionage adds another layer of intrigue to his already fascinating life. I mean, his mastery of deception, his ability to escape confinement, and his international travels would have certainly made him a valuable asset for intelligence gathering during a time of global unrest.
Makes sense. During World War I, he even took time to teach escape techniques to U.S. infantrymen.
Did he really?
Yeah. Imagine learning how to get out of handcuffs from Harry Houdini. What kind of confidence must that have instilled in those soldiers?
Wow. His wartime service demonstrates a sense of patriotism and a willingness to use his unique skills to aid the war effort. It's a testament to his versatility and his desire to contribute beyond the realm of entertainment.
Definitely.
It also speaks to the practical applications of his seemingly fantastical abilities.
And he even had a brief career as a silent film star and started his own production company.
Right, the film career.
Did the testimonies give any insights into the types of films he made or their reception? He really tried his hand at everything, didn't he?
The testimony suggests his films often featured, well, daring stunts and escape sequences, capitalizing on his public persona.
Makes sense.
While he wasn't exactly a critical darling, they were likely popular with audiences who came to see the same thrills they experienced in his live shows. His foray into production indicates a desire for greater creative control and a further expansion of his brand into a new medium.
Okay, now let's talk about his death. Detroit. Halloween, 1926.
A very spooky end.
The official cause was peritonitis from a ruptured appendix. But the events leading up to it are just so strange. There is the Montreal incident with the medical student Jocelyn Gordon-Whitehead.
Right, the punches.
Who reportedly punched Houdini in the abdomen.
The Montreal incident is a key point of contention. The testimonies state that Whitehead asked if Houdini could withstand a punch to the abdomen and then delivered several forceful blows before Houdini had a chance to brace himself.
Ouch.
It raises serious questions about the potential impact of that encounter.
And despite being in significant pain, which he attributed to those punches, and apparently a fractured foot he got during a performance.
Oh, I didn't know about the foot.
Yeah, he continued his demanding performance schedule, famously saying, "I'll do this show if it's my last."
Wow.
That's just unbelievable dedication, or maybe stubbornness. What does that tell us about his work ethic and his commitment?
It speaks to an incredible level of determination and a refusal to let pain stop him from performing. However, it also raises questions about whether he might have exacerbated an underlying condition by pushing himself so hard.
Sure.
It's a testament to the demanding nature of performance and perhaps a certain level of personal invincibility he may have felt.
By the time he got to Detroit, he had a high fever but still insisted on performing. His condition worsened after the show. He was hospitalized, had surgery, but sadly, he died.
Yeah. While the doctors at the time may have suspected a direct link between the punches and his appendicitis, later medical reviews suggest that blunt abdominal trauma is actually a rare cause of the condition.
Really?
Yeah. So this leaves the exact connection unclear and contributes to the mystery surrounding his death.
Yeah.
The timeline is certainly suspicious, though.
And the fact that he died on Halloween, a day so connected with the supernatural, just fueled all sorts of conspiracy theories.
Oh, absolutely.
The big one, of course, is that he was assassinated by the spiritualist community he so vehemently opposed.
The assassination theory, while lacking concrete evidence, certainly underscores the intense animosity Houdini's crusade had generated. He had made powerful enemies within the spiritualist movement, and the timing of his death on Halloween is certainly suggestive for those inclined towards conspiracy.
Right.
It's a dramatic end to a life spent challenging the very things some believed in most.
It's a death shrouded in uncertainty, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, looking at his legacy, I mean, his impact on magic and popular culture is just profound. He set the bar for escape artists, inspiring generations.
His influence on the world of magic is undeniable. He transformed escape artistry into a major spectacle, and his techniques, even those that have been revealed, continue to fascinate and inspire magicians today. He elevated it from a sideshow act to a main event.
And he's been the inspiration for countless books, films, TV shows, even characters like The Shadow and Batman.
Batman, yeah.
That's some serious cultural impact. Why do you think his persona resonates so strongly even now?
Well, the fact that his persona has permeated popular culture to such an extent speaks to the enduring power of his image, the seemingly ordinary man who could defy physical limitations and expose deception. The creation of characters like Batman, who embodies elements of both escape artistry and a fight against criminals who often rely on trickery, is a direct reflection of Houdini's lasting influence. He represents the triumph of human will and ingenuity.
And every Halloween, there are still these Houdini seances, people trying to contact his spirit. It's wild that almost a century after his death, the mystery still endures.
These annual seances are a poignant reminder of the public's continued fascination with Houdini and the very questions of life, death, and the supernatural that he himself wrestled with in his later years. It keeps his legend alive and highlights the enduring human curiosity about what lies beyond.
There are also these really poignant personal stories, like him and his wife Bess having an imaginary son, Mayor Samuel Houdini.
Oh, I read about that.
That suggests a real longing for parenthood, doesn't it?
The story of their imaginary son reveals a more intimate and vulnerable side to Houdini. It speaks to a deep personal longing and a unique way they found to cope with not having children, offering a glimpse behind the confident showman.
And he had this peculiar fascination with death, apparently acquiring the first electric chair and Edgar Allan Poe's desk.
Poe's desk, wow.
That's a bit macabre, isn't it? What do you think fueled that interest?
That macabre interest certainly adds a darker, more complex dimension to his public persona. Perhaps it was a way of confronting the very limits he so often defied. Or maybe it was simply a manifestation of an eccentric personality. It could also be seen as a professional interest, given his constant flirtation with danger and his later investigations into the afterlife.
And his devotion to his mother was profound. Her death really fueled his anti-spiritualism crusade, didn't it?
Oh, completely. His deep bond with his mother, Cecilia Steiner Weiss, was a powerful driving force in his life. Her death undoubtedly intensified his anger and resolve against those he believed were exploiting the grief of others. It was a deeply personal crusade rooted in love and loss.
And get this, he apparently had a habit of writing love letters to Bess even when they were in the same room.
No way.
Yeah, that's kind of sweet in a quirky way.
That detail offers a charming glimpse into their personal relationship, revealing a consistent affection and perhaps a touch of old-fashioned romanticism, even amidst his extraordinary life.
And here's a really unusual tidbit from his early career. He once led a group made up of the sons of rabbis who were involved in show business.
Sons of rabbis in show business.
You don't hear that every day. What does that tell us about the diverse and unexpected paths into entertainment at that time?
That's a wonderfully specific and unexpected detail. It highlights the diverse and perhaps unconventional paths that led individuals into the world of entertainment back then. It adds another layer to the rich tapestry of his early experiences and the surprising connections that could form in the world of early performance.
And for anyone who wants to dig even deeper into this bizarre journey, the testimonies mention a wealth of primary source materials out there: letters, diaries, scrapbooks, old newspaper articles, even Houdini's own writings.
Absolutely.
It sounds like there's a whole treasure trove of information to explore.
Absolutely. The availability of these primary sources allows for a much richer and more nuanced understanding of Houdini's life and times. Eyewitness accounts, especially from those closest to him, provide invaluable personal perspectives that help to humanize the legend.
So, to wrap up this truly bizarre journey into the life of Harry Houdini, what a story. Daring escapes, relentless self-promotion, a passionate pursuit of truth. His life was just this unbelievable ride.
Indeed. From escaping the impossible to exposing perceived deception, Houdini's life was a constant defiance of expectations. His crusade against the spirit world and his surprising ventures beyond magic showcase a multifaceted and endlessly fascinating individual.
He really was something else. His legacy continues to inspire and mystify.
He remains a figure who embodies human ambition, ingenuity, and the enduring power of spectacle.
And on that note, here's a final provocative thought for the listener. Consider this. How did Houdini's relentless pursuit of the seemingly impossible reflect humanity's own deep desire to push boundaries and understand the unknown, both in the physical world and perhaps beyond?
Something to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this bizarre journey through the life of Harry Houdini. Remember to share, rate, and follow the show for more wild stories.